Hi, Dawn. How are you doing today?
Good, Tim. How are you?
Good. Today's brought to us by M360 Clinical Fitness. How you doing today?
I'm doing good.
Uh,
Surviving the COVID world these days.
Surviving the COVID world. COVID. Can you believe this whole scenario? It's unbelievable.
And what it's done to our sport, Tim, is incredible.
Yeah,
I
that's what I
mean,
wanted to talk about. Go ahead.
no, it's just incredible that this is happening. so
Yeah.
many, so many events being canceled, and me with the Boulder and the Fortitude, big Colorado races, and my Texas and Louisiana races have been canceled. So it's a lonely job out here being a pro athlete coordinator for sure.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to officially welcome you to today's M360 Clinical Fitness episode, of course, and allow you to greet us. But I wanted to specifically get all this done in less than 20, 30 minutes. And today I'd like to have an honest, non-filtered conversation on the state of road racing and track and field worldwide. Just tell us a little bit about your capacity as elite athlete coordinator. What does that mean for anybody that might tune in and start following us on our YouTube channel? What does that mean? What is an elite athlete coordinator and who do you represent?
Well, like I say, I represent the Boulder and the Fortitude and Fresh 15K in Tyler, Texas, and the Heroes run in Shreveport, Louisiana. And basically, my job is to, bring together some of the best athletes in the world to compete in these particular races. And doesn't sound like it would take that much to do it, but there's a lot behind the scenes, arranging travel, hotels, things like that, and then just dealing with the athletes and making them available for press kind of stuff to promote the race. So,
And
yeah.
how do you select? What's your selection process? I mean, what do
Well,
you get and why do you get them and how do you get it? Is it just convenience? Is it cost? Is it?
yeah. I mean, some races have more money than others. I mean, the granddaddy of them all is the Boulder, and I have a pretty good travel budget for that, so we can bring athletes in from all over the world. Versus the Fortitude, where it's just that's more of a local Colorado pro race, trying to support the locals.
What's the entry on that? Entry amount of people?
The Fortitudes gets about 7,000 to 8,000 people, which is not bad for a race that's only been around for a couple of years. And,
How about
of
Boulder
course,
Boulder?
Boulder gets usually 48 to 50,000 people.
And how about this race in Texas?
The race in Texas, they get about 5,000, and Shreveport is a half marathon. They get about 2,500
Well, you
participants.
add them all up, that's, I don't know, just roughly 70,000 people. Where are those people at this year?
I think that it's sad that things aren't happening. I think that you and I know. I mean, even at any level, if you're training for something and it's gone, then
Yeah,
then what's the point? I mean, but a lot of
change
these
your
people are
plans.
doing it for fitness, which is good. They have their own personal goals, but especially for the top pros, it's really hard. One of the athletes that I know, and lead troop coaches, and Jake Rowley, made a huge breakthrough at the U.S. Olympic trials. Came in second place from way behind. Ran a great race, and now
Oh,
that
ready to go.
that's pulled out from underneath them. And but just talking to them, they're doing all this virtual stuff, and that's helping a little bit. But the other day he had a race with Jared Ward, kind of duking it out virtually. But
Yeah. Oh,
so yeah,
what do you mean by virtually? Just you go run a 10K, I'll go run a 10K.
right. And so Lee Troop was on a bike following Jake Rowley, and then on the other end, they set up a 5K course, and on the other end, Ed Icestone was following Jared Ward. it's, I don't know. It was cool. It was good,
Yeah,
that they can get their competitive juices out, but
right. I mean,
it's just not the same.
yeah, there's been a lot of that online here on YouTube. I don't know if you've seen what they're doing with Bowerman Track Club in Portland.
Yeah.
They're setting American records.
Yeah, I mean, there are
Crazy.
people that are coming through this, pretty well. I mean, and
Yeah,
they're starting to do these micro meets in Europe now, where they just can't have a lot of people in them, but
right.
running some decent time.
It makes
So
me wish that when we were at U of A running track in pursuit of that sub 4 minute mile, we should have set up our own races there. Our coach should have been smart enough to get us to do kind of what they're doing at a high school track in Portland, the Bowerman Track Club. You have a group of people with the same goal. They just were set it up to break 4 in the 1500 last week, and the little Houlihan girl was the only one that broke 4. I think she broke the American record. But
yeah,
I mean, it's incredible. We should have done that more looking back. Here, I'd like to take this a little bit different direction. So you got the 70-some thousand people that are not in the events that you work with. What are those people and what are they doing? What is the effect? Me being in health and fitness industry with M360 Clinical Fitness, I often wonder, are people getting fitter during lockdown, or are they getting unfit? And I think you have to define the definition of fitness and what has this done to people overall. We kind of talk about the elite athlete and how they're doing virtual things, like you mentioned with Lee Troop, but what they're doing in Portland with, I think that's fabulous. But how about the general everyday, that number 48,002? The guy from Pueblo, Colorado, the guy from Boone, that goes to Boulder every year. Where are they?
well, they're doing the same thing that the pros are doing. There's virtual races out there, and they're just the people that are really into it are supporting the sport. And sort of the cool thing that Lee Troop's doing is all his races, the money that he raises through the virtual races is going to helping charities in Boulder and things like that. So and he's getting a lot of support, and it's starting to open up a little bit with I think he's going to have the Pearl Street Mile, but it's actually not going to be on Pearl Street. It's going to be out at the reservoir. So, but there's a lot of space out there, and they're going to space out and try to do it as healthy as possible. And the runners at 48,002, number 48,002. They may be out there, they may not. But
right.
What I'm seeing, and I'm thinking that you're probably seeing the same thing, Tim, is that there's there's a new running boom. I think people are getting out more. I know around here, in Boulder, the trails are packed.
Right.
Hopefully that's an okay thing. I mean, if people are being safe and all that, but I think once we come out of this, that people are going to realize running it, and even walking. I know you're a big walker now.
Yeah.
That it's
because I can't run.
we're gonna come out better. So
yeah, I've noticed that in our neighborhood. We live in suburbia, and definitely during lockdown, there's a lot more people out walking their dogs and everything. And of course,
what else do you have to do?
Yeah, right? Of course, I do M360 Clinical Fitness, and it's a small clinical studio, and we got shut down during lockdown. We're unable to get together, and I wasn't sure we were even going to be able to come back, nor was I sure that people would want to come back since it's a studio and it's a small environment. But they seem more hungry than ever, because everybody's questioning their immunity and what happens when I do get COVID-19, which is pretty much what's going to happen. I mean, herd immunity is the ultimate solution to this all, that sooner or later you're going to come across COVID-19. I mean, it might not be this year, this week, but at some point you're going to come across it. And the question is going to be the same. The question is going to be, how does your body react to it? And that's really from day one been our number one objective at M360 Clinical Fitness, is to, one, get people truly clinically fit. And that was defined for me by Dr. Vigil, a good friend. And that is simply the ability to uptake and utilize oxygen and ventilate CO2 to create energy to do what you do. I mean, it's pure and simple. So all these people that are out there, if they're not taking that into account, I mean, running can break you down or running can build you up. And that's a whole nother YouTube episode right there. But I would hope that people not only getting out, like you say, in Boulder and where I live in Southern Colorado, but they're starting to understand what's important and what to do once they do get out there and to improve their health, physical activity, pointed exercise, and make it count so that they do become healthier. Because a lot of these people that are dying, there's comorbidity, meaning that there's other underlying situations that are with that person before COVID, and then once they get COVID, like my mother who's 90. I mean, she's not going to have the defense you and I are going to have. And depending on your fitness level, your true fitness level, it comes down to inflammation, oxidation, and how you process energy and how your body responds. Because the whole thing that kills people is an inflammatory response, at a high level. They call it a cytokine storm. And, that's basically what we try to get into. And walking and running and cycling are great activities to strengthen that, as long as you don't overdo it. So, the whole thing, I like your approach here and what you said. It's an opportunity. Lockdown can be an opportunity to eat more donuts,
Yeah.
or to get out and do something. So, I mean, that's what you're seeing in Boulder.
Yep.
Yeah, and I just wondering, what your take was on some of this virtual racing, which you brought up on your own without me even asking you, and how that might, just looking back a little bit, like to our own careers, how much of what they're doing there, it's new. Virtual racing is new. We have the technological capacity to do it now, which is neat, as long as we harness it for the right thing. But how much do you think that would affect us? We used to have a control run on Saturdays. But what if we would have pointedly, we've never went out as a group, Tom Hunt, you, me, Dobler, Lakeman, Hess, we were all sub 4 minute candidates. And, Becklin broke 4 and Tom broke 4, but the rest of us didn't. We ran low 4s. What if we would have targeted that? And had a guy run us through in 59 and bring us through in 159 and bring us through in 258 splits I've done over and over, and then bring it home. I mean,
how many times did you do that in practice, buddy? Where you would
too much for not being a sub 4 minute mile.
Tell me again some of the workouts that you used to do.
Well, one in particular, and I remember I was so happy that I accomplished this, and after the workout, coach told me I wasn't fast enough to break 4. And here's what I did. We did a 13:20, 3 laps, 3 times.
Boy,
4.
that dates you 13:20.
It dates my 62.
That would be a 1200, right?
Yeah. Well, this was a 13:20, a little bit longer. I went out and ran like 256, 257. Okay, solo by myself. And then rested a little bit and ran 4 times in 880 between 156 and 158. And then came back and ran 2 440s, the first one at 52 point and the second one at 53. And coach told me it wasn't fast enough because Paul Becklin had done the same workout 2 years before when he ran 338 for 1500. Because he was able to run 51s and 52s, which is a crock of shit because all you got to do is tack a 60-second lap on that and you're sub 4. And the only reason that matters to me at 62 is because I cannot say I was a sub 4 minute miler. And I would, it's just a mark that you were so close to. You had that one window of opportunity and you missed it. And you're not a sub 4 minute miler either.
Right.
You're a 2:11
No,
marathon.
it's a badge of honor even today to run sub 4. And
yeah. How many people do it a year now? It's still a limited number.
right. I don't know offhand, but it's it's still a badge of honor.
Yeah. You know something that this steers me way off course, but then kind of brings me back. We talk about our youth and we talk about some of the things we want to talk about on this show going forward, is what stirs people up. I mean, not breaking 4 pisses me off. It pisses me off, and it actually gives me energy to do what I do now. I rode 100 miles yesterday morning. I've done some crazy things. I do 24-hour ride every year. I stay fit and healthy, and in a clinical sense, fit and healthy, which is a whole other episode. But some of my hunger, I often wonder what drives me. Because, I am driven right now at 62 like I've never been driven before. And I think a lot of it goes back to that. It goes back to, I didn't break 4. There's unfinished business. I don't know how much hunger you feel, but let me ask you point blank. You ran 2:11. I always had you down for 2:08 back in the day when Jonesy held the world record at what, 2:08?
Yeah.
And you rabbited that race, didn't you?
Yeah.
In
Chicago Marathon.
Yeah. So here you are, you rabbited the world record that a friend of ours ran. And what was the difference between you and Jonesy? How come he didn't break? How come he didn't just go with him and stay with him?
Jonesy was a tough, or still is a tough character. He just had, I don't know. He just had something in him like you that is very competitive, and still a nice guy. But I don't know. I just felt like I gave everything I had for each marathon, and every marathon is different. You have your good days, more bad days than good days in the marathon. But when it's on, I was referring back to Jake Rowley. Today's, Steve Jones type of runner. He just had a great day. He hung in there. A marathon is a different beast, and I just think that distance for Jonesy was just his distance. He could crush it. So
yeah,
I don't know. But it's funny. We talk about shoes these days too. I guess those Nike Zooms or whatever
making a difference. Yeah, I have a pair of Hoka Carbons, and it's the best shoe I've ever had in my life. And I was a shoe rep. I worked for Converse, the Olympic Games in '84, official shoe, Converse. Then I went to work for Reebok, the Reebok Boom, blah, blah, blah. And I've had a lot of gimmicks, as Dobler would have called them, in shoes. I have this basically Hoka's version of that Zoom. But I don't run. I walk. But I can feel it. And it helps me because I have double prosthetics. The reason I can't run is because I have artificial hips and have had for 22 years. That's kind of odd that I actually needed new hips when I was 34, got them when I was 40. So shoes mean everything to me.
Yeah.
My ability to move and walk. I walk 6 miles today. I walk 6 miles every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday morning. And I'll often, once a month or so, walk 20 miles. Puts me in touch with our day.
Well, let me ask you point blank, Tim Barnes. How do you feel that you're a walker now? I try to go out and walk, and it's frustrating to me because I want to run, and I got a bad knee and I can't run, and I'm hoping to get that fixed soon. But I know I got to do something, and I'm not doing a lot. So
well, let me show you something. What makes me an avid walker? This. I have a gas. I choked up high on the bat and spent a lot of money to buy a gas exchange system.
Okay.
And I've always been an uber scientific guy.
Yeah.
And I get data like this. We don't have to go into it. But that's basically a profile above, like we do in M360. I design in advance. And then the below little graph is actually what your body does when you do that profile. Be like if I said go run 4 1-mile repeats with 5-minute recovery between and run them at 4:20. What's the metabolic effect? Well, I see the metabolic effect of walking, and it's fabulous. It's off the hook. If there was one thing I would say to people to do, let's do this gas exchange. The point of me holding this mask up is I measure it. And everything comes down to a simple inflow of oxygen, exhalation and ventilation of CO2. I mean, the whole world of life. I mean, what do trees do? Trees take on carbon dioxide and make oxygen. We take on oxygen and emit CO2. What a perfect relationship. That tree in your yard is feeding you. It's helping you stay alive. So don't go cut that tree down. That's your source of life. As Dr. Veal told me a long time ago, we are aerobes, Tim. I'm like aerobes. I'm thinking Arabs. No, we are aerobes, Tim. And we live on an oxygen-rich planet, Earth. It's a very special and unique relationship. We can't just go to Mars and go for a walk. So when I walk here, I understand what it's doing for me, what it's doing to my mitochondria, this little energy producing parts of every human cell of our body would dictate life or death. And walking delivers. I used to make fun of walkers. I mean, I was a runner. Back at TheraFit days when people, a studio called TheraFit, like M360, people walk by, I used to tell my clients, those walkers, bullshit. Walking's not a catch-all, but it's a great baseline. So now why you can't run, I got a question for you, Don Janicki. Why not walk until you can run? So you don't destroy your health. I mean, what's happening to the mitochondria in your cell right now? I could go into this. I could take a deep duck dive into this and lose everybody really quick. But it's simple. What's happening to your fitness? And that is, remember, the definition, as Dr. Veal has taught me, clinical fitness is your ability to uptake and to utilize oxygen, ventilate CO2 to create energy. It's pure and simple. We create our own energy in ourselves. So are you just going to let that whole process go until you can run again? What if you can never run again?
No, I shouldn't. And I guess I'm having the hard time of, I used to run at a pretty high level, and now I'm reduced to walking and getting passed by people that, it's humbling and it's hard. And it's like, I don't feel like I'm doing anything for myself, but I know that's wrong.
Oh, no, but you are, because if you don't walk, what do?
Right.
So you do nothing.
Exactly.
And that in terms of a competitor. So in other words, you're saying if I can't win, I'm not going to run.
Yeah, I'm past that now, but we trained at a high level, Tim. And it's.
We still train
you still
at a high
do.
level.
I'm proud of you. I'm proud of this man here.
We still train at a high level, but I'm not trying to beat anybody anymore. You know what it comes down to? And this could go into a real duck dive, and I see we're 23 minutes into this, so we've got to keep it brief. My number one goal with M360, with my book, it's, I wrote this book, blah, blah, blah. It's just, if you open that book and read one sentence, and it makes you think, and it makes you change something that makes you healthier, then I've succeeded. It's that simple. That's not a novel. It's not written to be read like a novel. It's simply, if you do, what you're going to find out, if you read that book, if you look into that direction of health and wellness and fitness in the United States, you're going to find out that it comes down to inflammation, oxidation, and energy. Pure and simple. I mean, where does your energy come from? It needs to come from fat. You need to be fat adapted. Our ancestors were all fat adapted. What does that mean? It just means that the predominant source of energy for your body is fat. That yellow stuff on that gas exchange test right there. I mean, you wouldn't believe, I test my clients with gas exchange. I don't know how lucky they are that I have the same capacity, the Olympic Training Center, to measure, you know, if they do, two people can do two different workouts exactly the same, and one's all sugar and one's all fat. And the person in fast is going to live longer, all things said, because they're not creating the inflammation, the oxidation. So put the workouts away for a minute. Put the whole performance thing away for a minute, and just you sitting there at your house in Boulder to stay alive. How inflammatory is that process? How much oxidation of LDLs or, you know, create plaque? How much of this negative stuff's going on versus you can take and turn that around, reduce the inflammation, reduce the oxidation, become better fat adapted, and live a longer, healthier, happier. Now, I would assume you're happier if you can breathe and everything, you know, life. And it's something you can start today. I mean, I'm so passionate about it. I mean, what's that food you just ate, put in your mouth, that beer you drank, or the beer you didn't drink, or the water you drank, or the orange you, what's the effect of that on you? It's the same thing with COVID. It's out there. You're going to come across it. But the question is, I come across the flu every year, but I haven't had the flu in 6 years. I haven't had symptoms of the flu. I haven't had a cough, a cold, a sneeze, a fever. Why is that? And I help my wife at the restaurant, and I bust tables and pick up people's snot rags 3 hours a day, every day, you know, working lunch. I don't get it. Some people else comes across and gets it. How inflamed are you? How much oxidative stress do you have? There's some of the things we talk about in the book, just becoming aware and making changes.
It's pretty simple, isn't it?
It is so simple. It is not complex. And it really comes down to gas exchange, because it can be seen. Everything we talked about can be seen in gas exchange. You know, there's a lot of talk out there right now, and I could point you in a lot of directions, the whole world in a lot of directions, about heart disease and, you know, cholesterol. And as it turns out, and there's a lot of research back me up on this, high cholesterol is not a ticket to death. Cholesterol is something that's affected. LDL, low density lipids, are something that are affected by inflammation, oxidation, and what direction they take you, healthy or unhealthy, heart attack or no heart attack, come down to inflammation, oxidation. We're looking at the wrong thing. It's like we see plaque buildup, and we see a death, and we see a blocked artery or whatever. We go to that crime site, okay, that car wreck, and there's a lot of cholesterol, so we blame cholesterol. Cholesterol's there, but they didn't cause the accident. They didn't cause the accident. And the things that cause that accident, it turns out we have a lot more control over than we ever imagined. And nobody's talking about it. And you know, one suspicion I have is because there's no money. There's no money in healthy people.
Right.
What about the pharmaceutical companies that make all this heart medicines, these statins, which should be criminal in my opinion? Because it's just the number one protocol for people to follow is jump in and take a statin. Hey, well, wait a minute, back up. Back up. So you have high cholesterol. So you look at all these studies, just as many people die with high cholesterol as low cholesterol. It's the inflammation. Take a step back. How do we get rid of the inflammation and oxidation? Now cholesterol has a totally different meaning. I don't think there's a doctor on earth that could refute what I just said. If there is, come in and let's talk. Come in and let's talk on this program. That's the whole goal of this program, is to get some people pissed off. Lee Troop doesn't like Alberto Salazar. Let's get Alberto and Lee on a conversation and let's address this. But, you know, unfortunately, we live in a world where a lot of people won't come on and talk because they're worried about getting sued or whatever. It's a bunch of bullshit. We need to get down to the truth of it all. You know, why do you run? Why do you walk? I mean, what you just said, my good friend, you're my best friends in life, is you can't run, so you don't walk or ride a bike. I can see why you might not want to ride a bike. I do a lot of cycling. You know, I rode 100 miles yesterday. I ride like 40, 50, 100 milers a year. I mean, I love it out there on the open road. And I love what it does for me. My mind, as well as, probably more importantly, from my mind and spirit than my body. But my buddy who ran all those workouts with me in Arizona, University in all that heat. So you can't run, so you're not out there experiencing that. Forget about the competitive work. What about the sweat running on your neck? What about meeting that goal? I walked 6 miles this morning, and I just wanted to walk under 15-minute mile pace because I know that's where all the good benefit is. And I, rode 100 miles yesterday, and I understand, balancing. I can't just walk all day. You overtrain. It's catabolic, right? Not a anabolic, not a building up, too much breaking down. Then your workouts actually become negative, But I see a Dawn Janicki, such a competitive, such a great runner. You can't run anymore. So what's filling that? What do you do with that time? What do you do with that spirit? I mean, that sweat when you pass me on a control run, or I passed you and then you say, hey, well, I'm bullshit, I'm coming back on him. So where does that go? Where does that spirit go?
I don't know, buddy. Got to get back.
So it just goes nowhere? You don't do anything?
Yeah.
And how does that feel? How does that feel knowing you did nothing? I mean, to me, the negative on that would be so much more than the positive. Because, I mean, you have to do something.
Yeah.
Get out and walk 15 minutes a mile for a mile, 2 miles. How does that feel when you go walk? Do you time it? Maybe you have it against something.
That I still do. If I get out there, I'll put on my Garmin. I'm friends with you on Garmin. You can see me.
Yeah, I'll need to go look, because what's your longest walk? Not to say go longer, but I mean, when you go, what's a walk?
4 or 5 miles.
Have you done a 5-mile walk?
Yeah.
What's your average pace for a mile?
Probably like 18 minutes.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, what would be wrong with the challenge? I mean, if this draws you into it, here's how I look at walking. I can't run, or I would run.
I know you would.
But knowing what I know about walking now, I would still walk. I would walk and run some days, or even walk, run. I mean, I even try now, to walk. But I'll walk my best 20 miles like 12:45 a mile.
Wow.
That's cruising.
Yeah.
That's walking. And I don't race walk. I don't wiggle. Because of my hips, I try to walk properly, rotating my hips, blah, blah, blah. But that draws me in. I can tell you that an easy walk for me would be 15 minutes a mile. Pushing the tempo would be more of a 14, 13 and a half. And just, record-breaking PR stuff would be high 12s. That's interesting to me. But I realize walking is part of what I do. I paddle in a kayak, a sprint kayak. I've been to 2 Olympic trials in paddling. I do my own M360 workouts indoors. I do indoor Zwift racing. We race the entire world. We have competitive cycling, and it's even the pro cyclists doing it this year because they didn't have races. Right. And it's just uber competitive. So I'll cycle, I paddle, I swim, although I haven't swam because the pools are closed, especially here in Pueblo. We really only have one pool to begin with. It's even open. So in lacking all that stuff, I walk 3 times a week because it's a change of muscles, of muscles I use from cycling to walking. So I rode 54 with Steph on Saturday. I rode 100 yesterday by myself. I walked 6 miles this morning. Steph walked 4 of them with me. Tomorrow I'll do our M360 workout. Wednesday I'll walk again in the morning. Thursday I'll do our M360 workout again with the people. Friday I'll walk 6 miles in the morning. I used to swim before those walks for a half hour to keep the mobility. And then I start all over. And I do a lot of intermittent fasting. I mean, these are things that if I had any control over you, if you had the desire, I would have you implement in your life. You would reduce body fat, improve your ability to utilize fat for fuel, and just be generally healthier until you can run again. And then you'd get your running back quicker. When you can run, wouldn't it be nice to start that journey 40 pounds lighter?
Oh, yeah.
Because the weight is really noticed when you're running.
Yeah.
You know that.
I'm sure that's what's hard on my knee, which is bothering me.
Oh, yeah. Are you going to have surgery?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So hopefully in August they, starting elective surgeries again. So that'll be
Yeah.
good to do that.
Yeah, well, I just want to see you around for a long time, Don. We met back in 1979, and you've been, like I said, one of my best friends for life, and I want to see you healthy. And
I
I'd say
appreciate
healthy
that,
and
buddy.
happy, but I know happiness stems from health,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
All right, buddy. Hey, I'm
I
gonna
am
let you
happier
go.
when I'm healthier.
Yeah, and let's think of some new stuff for some shows. You people out there in YouTube land, if anybody's actually watching this, look down below, subscribe, and start following. We'll even have you on the show. I don't know who you are. We haven't met yet. I mean, that's what's cool about this, Don. There are so many people out there I'd love to talk to. You
Well,
have me the third person.
What we need to do is get some of our old teammates on here too.
Absolutely, and just
Yeah.
start cataloging until and building like a snowball. God,
Yeah.
I'd love to have Jonesy. I'd love to have Tom Honey. I'd love to have Tom and Jonesy. I'd love to have Salazar. I'd like to have Lee Troop. I'd like to have both of them. And I'm basically following what Lance is doing. I watched Lance Armstrong's podcast. They're interesting. The guys talking about racing currently and back in the day, and some of the things that affect performance.
Yeah.
I'm not mad at Alberto Salazar, what he did. I'm not mad at Lance Armstrong. These guys are seekers. Okay, so if they piss somebody off and offended somebody along the way, we need seekers. We don't need a bunch of brain dead introverts. I mean, we need to make the world better. If you found something that worked, share it with us. Maybe after you used it privately for a couple of races, but we'll decide whether that's good or bad for you. And basically, if it's good or bad for your health. Because at the end of the day, it's the masses, like we started in the beginning. It's those 56,000 people that show up to the event. It's like going to Woodstock for them. It's an event. It's like a festival. It's not so much a race. It's a festival attached. So where are those people? How can we affect them with some of the truths from the top down, and then hear their stories from the bottom up in terms of performance?
Yeah.
Because an elite marathoner can learn a lot from an everyday Joe, and an everyday Joe can learn a lot from an elite marathoner. You stay in touch with a thing that's common to all of us: cellular health. It might sound boring to you, but it's fascinating. You're breathing. I hope you were breathing throughout this entire conversation. And if I could capture that breath, I could tell you how fit you are. It's really pretty amazing. So anyway, Don, I'll cut this thing off for now. Have a great day, and we'll talk soon.
Sounds good, buddy.
Ciao, Bella.